It's a car company so exclusive and exquisite, I have never seen one with my own two eyes, and I have seen Anne Koenigsegg. And it was sort of Argentinian, sort of Italian, and 100% luxury hypercar performance. Pagani. Like almost every automotive brand in history, it was named after its founder, Horacio Pagani. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He's an Argentinian who always wanted to be an engineer. And despite some difficulties with the region of, farming not being ripe for engineers, he began working on fiberglass race cars with some Renault support in their local, racing series, Argentinian National Series. Eventually, his success in the Nationals worked his way up to Renault's racing program, where he started to improve the bodywork on some of their racing cars. And with his experience at Renault, and a little help from his friend and fellow Argentinian five-time world championship Juan Manuel Fangio, you might have heard of him, he moved to Italy to work for Lamborghini in 1982. Now, it wasn't exactly designing, let's be honest. Lamborghini, well, they were a little bit Italian elitist, and they didn't really like non-Italians working for the Italian supercar company. So he had to work his way up from janitor, but he did eventually get to chief engineer. And this was at the age of 20. I mean, think about that. At the age of 20, he had built his own Formula 3 racer, built the Countach Evolution concept, and had design inputs on everything from the Diablo to the LM002. He was a very successful automotive engineer. And then everything unraveled. You see, while he was working, he was planning the Countach Evolution, he used carbon fiber, and if you want to make carbon fiber faster, you use an autoclave. But since Ferrari didn't have one, the cash-strapped Lamborghini reckoned, well, if the kings of Italian sports cars don't have one, we don't need one either. So it led to a bit of a falling out, and then Lamborghini wouldn't let Pagani signed his design on the 25th anniversary Countach because he was an Argentinian, and it was a bit of a mess, and eventually it ended up with Pagani borrowing some money, buying his own autoclave, ditching Lamborghini, and founding Modena Design in 1991. This was a Formula 1 carbon fiber development company, if you will. So they made components for Formula 1 race cars for a lot of companies, including Ferrari. But that wasn't really what Pagani had in mind. He always wanted a car of his own. So, a year later, he opened up Pagani Automobile Modena to produce his own car. Originally, it was going to be called the Fangio F1 after his good friend, but sadly, Fangio passed away before the car was complete, so he changed the name to Zonda, named after the hot air current over Argentina, the Zonda wind. Not as cool as Fangio, but hey, still a pretty good name in the long run. And while the Pagani was designed in-house, as most startup supercars are, Pagani didn't know anything about engines. So he signed a deal with Mercedes for their M120 6-liter naturally aspirated V12, making 444 horsepower. Combine the mid-engined V12 with the carbon fiber construction, and it was a genuinely good sports car, and the looks were incredible. It blew people away when it was unveiled at Geneva in 1999. Everyone went, "Hey, on, who the hell is this guy, and why is he making such a cool car?" Well, I say making, he only made 5 of the C12s, as they were called, but it made a massive impression. And when they made the C12S just a year later, it had an AMG source, 7-liter V12, making over 540 horsepower. And the new 6-speed manual gave it a 0 to 60 of 3.7 seconds and a top speed of 208. It wasn't just a very good sports car with some radical looks. It was a supercar killer, but critically it was extremely well built. It was handmade with exquisite materials. Sort of like, in many ways like Bugatti. Very fast, but critically a very comfortable interior, and every detail was meticulously laid out for luxury. It was a very good car, but it also weighed less than 3,000 pounds, so it was good handling. It was really a Bugatti mixed with a Ferrari, and that doesn't happen very often. And it led to the Zonda being a massive success. Over the next 18 years, Pagani would make a lot of them. A lot of Zondas. There was the S, the Roadster, the F Roadster, the Cinque Roadster, the Tricolore, the R, the Revolution, the HF Barchetta, along with the 760 one-off series like the RS, the LH, the Passione, the Fantasma, the Kiryu, the LM Roadster, the Oliver. Yeah, did someone name their Zonda the Oliver? I'm looking at. Holy crap, someone named their Zonda the Oliver. The Oliver Evolution. Apparently they say it's very good handling. So yeah, they made the Oliver, the Riviera, the King, the Viola, the Danibo, the Sierra, and the Arrivederci. Plus a lot more than I'm not mentioning, about a dozen more. And since there are so many Zondas with different performance figures and one-off builds and wow, we're gonna focus on just a few if we're honest. Starting with the R. This was a testbed, if you will, for future Pagani development. It shares a basic architecture and design elements with the Zonda, but otherwise it was considered by them to be 90% brand spanking new. And everything is made out of either carbon fiber or magnesium. This thing weighs less than 2,400 pounds. It is a race car, not for the road, and not for a racing series. Yeah, it's just an ultimate rich person track toy. Yeah, the chassis has a fully integrated roll cage, GT racing spec fuel cell. The front and rear subframes are completely brand new to accommodate the reworked suspension. It even has onboard air jacks for quick fire changes, just like an LMP car. It's sick. The bodywork is also completely redesigned. It shares elements with the Zonda, sure, but it's been completely reworked out of, again, carbon fiber to generate an immense amount of downforce, and it even works with the rear diffuser to generate low pressure in the back to suck the car even further into the road. And then there's the engine. It's, guess what, a Mercedes V12, this time a 6-liter, from the CLK GTR, making 740 horsepower. That means a 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, and even more impressively, a stopping distance from 60 miles an hour to 0 in less than 100 feet. That's one of the best braking distances in the world for any car, period. If you happen to get your hands on one of the 15 ever made, and you take it to the Nürburgring for a bit of fun, you can theoretically, if you're a professional racing driver who did a lot of practice with it, expect a Nürburgring lap time of 6 minutes and 47 seconds. Provided, of course, you can stay conscious and keep your lunch in the right place at over 1.2 cornering G. And if you think that's a little crazy, they made a faster version in 2012 called the Revolution, making 50 horsepower more, with F1 spec DRS, traction control, ABS, and braking systems. In fact, that Formula 1 braking system is 15% lighter and provides quadruple the brake disc life. It is an incredible feat of engineering that they only made like 5 of. It's over $2.5 million if you could find one. Yeah. But if you want the ultimate road Pagani at this point. Well, your only option was the Zonda HF Barchetta. This also has 790 horsepower, 627 foot-pounds of torque, but unlike the Revolution, it has an interior fit for a king. Only 2 were sold to the public, and the other one was kept in a museum. And the reason why it was so special, it served as the end of Zonda production, although you can still order the one-off Zondas that I mentioned right now, if you have the money. Because that's the thing about Pagani. Since their customer base is so niche and so exclusive, there is no such thing as an end of production date, if we're honest. Pagani will simply build whatever you want. If you want a Zonda, they'll build you a Zonda. Provided it is a basis of one of their models, they will build you one. Now, I know what you're thinking. They only have one model. Why are you speaking in the plurality sense? Well, because after the official end of production, air quotes, of the Zonda, they made the Huayra, named after the god of wind, and it was Pagani's second ever road car. Therefore, the attention to detail is even more important. For instance, almost every component from the rims to the dashboard dials is milled out of individual aluminum blocks. That sounds incredibly wasteful, guys. But it results in a bespoke, exquisite interior that looks like something out of a sci-fi movie from the 50s. It's amazing. It is one of the best interiors I have ever seen in a car. And I haven't even seen it, I've just seen the virtual, pictures. It's amazing to look at. And then, the rest of the car is made out of either aluminum or magnesium to save even more weight. In fact, they were so extreme with the weight saving and the personal connection to the car, they went with a slower single-clutch gearbox to save almost 200 pounds. The end result of all of this is that despite the twin-turbo, purpose-built AMG V12, it weighs less than 3,000 pounds. And that V12 now makes 720 horsepower and 740 foot-pounds of torque. That means a 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds and a top speed of a ridiculous 240 miles an hour. With the Huayra, Pagani is now extended into hypercar territory, and they were just getting started because they made the BC, named after Pagani's first customer, as a road-legal track weapon. Now at 745 horsepower and a sub-2,800 pound curb weight, it uses titanium exhaust, aeronautical grade aluminum, and carbon triax to save weight. What the hell is carbon triax? Well, in order to save you the incredibly complex biochemical engineering degree definition, it's basically a denser, lighter, and stronger version of carbon fiber. By weaving the fibers in a triaxial orientation, eh? That's where you get the name. All in all, this technology means that Pagani can claim 50% stronger and 20% lighter than previous iterations. That's insane! And then there's the already bizarre active aero on the front flaps that is accentuated by the rear flaps and the massive rear wing, because when you already have active aero, you need a wing above your active aero. That is design that I can get behind. But if you want to get behind the wheel of one of them, well, good luck, because they only made 20 coupes and 40 roadsters, so, they were already a few million, and, I can imagine they're quite a bit more than that now. Now, there were the usual special editions, like the Carbon, the White, the Da Vinci, the Dinista, the Pearl, the Sentra, the Ultimo, but we're gonna focus on the big one, the Imola. It's, no way of putting it, the most powerful Pagani ever made. 827 horsepower from a tuned V12, and it's very fitting because it's named after one of the fastest tracks in all of Italy. It's a beast, and well, since it's in private hands and they only made one, we really don't know the true performance specs of it, but It's basically just a Huayra BC, which is already an improved Huayra with a hell of a lot more horsepower. So, I would imagine it's pretty rapid. Although not as rapid as this. The Huayra R. It was just unveiled not too long ago, actually. You see, with the 100 Huayras that were made per AMG's V12 contract, Pagani didn't have any more engines for this R, so they resourced AMG into building 30 brand new V12s for the Huayra's send-off. Yeah, that's right, they're ending the production of the Huayra, But this is not a normal Huayra. This is very similar to the Zonda R, a not road legal in any sense race car that doesn't race in any category. It's another V12 for sure, but it's naturally aspirated. So it's slower, right? It's less powerful because it doesn't have the turbos. No, it makes 840 horsepower at 9,000 RPM. It's now the most powerful Pagani ever. And in order to tame that fury, it has new GT3 racing tires, 16.1-inch carbon ceramic brakes, and an aero package that generates 1.1 tons of downforce. It is set up to be one hell of a send-off to the Huayra, but as we have seen in the past, just because Pagani says it's gone doesn't mean it is. And provided that you got the cash, Pagani will make you whatever car you want as long as they're in business, and, well, they're doing pretty well. So, who knows, maybe we'll be seeing a Zonda 50 years from now. That will be one hell of an achievement.